Welcome to the fastest stop in town. Today we're going to Masech the Ketubot stop Pei Vav. We're going to begin on Pei Vav Amud Aleph, the two dots about 6 lines from the top. Gufa, getting back to what we said before. Omer Shmuel, Hamoicher Shnar Choy V'Chaveroi. If a person sold a document which says that he has money owed to him, and then after he sold it, he was moichel on that loan, mochel. So we said that it actually works. It's a good mechila, feel yorish moichel. So we said not only himself, but also regarding the yorshim. So says Rashi, afil yorish shel malve moichel. Even if it's the yorish, it's not the Malva himself, but the Yorish of the Malva, they could also make the stipulation that it works. However, if let's say the Lokeach, the buyer, is wise, because he could be concerned because he's getting this land, he should shake some money to custody star b'shmei. They should have the star written in his name. In other words, because now that the star is going to be written in his name, so no longer will he have the ability to be able to be moichel on this loan, because now, since it was sold to someone else, so now it will be connected to that other person. Omer Meimar, Ma de dain did it garmi. When a person who is dain, judging, even regarding indirect causes, that, as Rashi says, "Mechayev es a goyrim hesed lechavero." If you are only a goyrim, you caused indirect damage to your friend. So in that situation, if that's true, if you're done to garmi, magbube demei shtara malya, then he would be able to collect this star, which was moichel, the entire amount, because you actually caused a hefsid for that person by being moichel. However, as Rashi says, it's a machlokas and bava kama, whether or not we're doing din in the garmi. So if you hold that we're not doing din in the garmi, so you wouldn't be chayiv. So magbibe demei naira ba'alma. All you could do is collect the value of the piece of paper. Havi Uvda was a story, V'kaifi Rafram Ravashi, and he required the Agvibe Kikshur Salme. They had to collect for the amount of the image of a beam. So Rashi says, Kolimer Giboy Gomor. He required him to collect for everything. So I wrote over here as a question that even after you're moichel, and now you can't collect from the loiva, but garmi could collect from the malva. Okay. Omer Meimer Mishmei Rav Chama. Haiman Ika Lake Subas Yishul Bal Chayiv. Let's say you have two obligations. You have an obligation to pay for your wife's ksuba, and also for the debt that's owed. The Islay are the Islay Zuze. And there's money that could go to one of them, and there's also land. So the din is that when it comes to the balchov, the person you owe money to, so you should give them money. You should reimburse them with money. However, Leisha, regarding her ksuba, misalkinan le'ara, she'll be paid back with land. Haikidine b'haikidine. And this is according to the proper din, says Rashi. Zeloi v'mois, the one who had money, borrowed, so they should get money. V'zu, but the woman, samchal shibud hakarka, so she has a connection to the land. And therefore, because of that, the ksuba is collected from the land. So that's fine if you have enough to go all around. What happens if you don't have enough? Ve'ilo ika el chad ara. Let's say there's only enough for one person. to get. So the din is, you give to the Baal Chayv. Why? So Rashi says, Shotino delas. If you owe money and all of a sudden you're not paying them back, people are not going to want to start giving loans anymore. They're going to feel that it's not worth it. I'm not going to give out a loan if there's a chance I'm not going to get my money if I'm going to default on the loan. So that we pay off first. Well, how about the woman? Won't the woman be deterred from getting married? So where it says, no. If you can only give to one or the other, give to the Baal Chayv. Not the woman, my time, because there's Mamash Isha writes the Lisa, Isha writes the Linasa. Because as much as a man may want to get married, a woman wants to get married even more. And because of that, we'll say that even though, of course, we'd rather her also get, it's coming to her, the Ksuba, but if you can't give except to one of them, better you should give to the Loiva. The Loiva should give to the Mal. Is in fact true that which was said. This is like Lashon She'ela. Is it true that this is what was said in the name of Rava? The Haiman Damaski Mezuzah. Someone who's trying to collect money. The Isli Ara, and there's land in the picture. Yasa Baal Chayv, and the Baal Chayv comes. V'katav minei, and the Baal Chayv is coming to claim for the money that's owed to him. Yomali Zil Shkom Ara, and you say, you know what? I know I have money, but I also have land. Why don't you take the land? Amrinam Lizil Zavan At. Instead, we say you sell it. You, the love, the borrower, sell the land. The icy, havle amale lo. So that's what you should do. So that's what's required. So in this situation, we see that it's upon the chiyuv. Seems like it's on the loiva. Again, that if the malva says, oh, you know what, the lender turns to the loiva, and the loiva says, oh yeah, you know what, you want land, zil zavan at, you, the borrower, sell the icy and come back to me. Havle amale lo. Gemara says, Emle gupta uvda hachihavi. What exactly does this mean? What happened exactly? Armale toilum asav ba'ovid kachavim havi. This money was actually hanging by an ovid kachavim. Says Rashi, Mois hay liproa, the money that was owed, the omer shel ovid kachavim heim. And they said that this money actually was of a non-Jew. Who ois a shalak kahaygen lefika chasaloy shalak kahaygen. Since he did something improperly, so therefore we're going to also require him to do something improperly. In other words, normally, this is question 7, al mi mutul litroyach, who has to trouble themselves with mechiras karka to sell the land with piroyin al to pay back a loan? Is it the malva, the lender, or is it the loiva? So normally, as we see over here, it's the malva. The malva has to be matriach. But over here, since he acted shlo kahaygen, and he said, oh, the land is by ovid kachavim, so because he said something which is shlo kahaygen, so therefore we're going to kanas the loiv in this situation. According to you that said paying a loan is in fact a mitzvah, in which Rashi says, how do we know it's a mitzvah? Dechsiv hin sedek shei hein shochat sedek v'lav shochat sedek. So we learn it from that pasuk. Oimer. So in that situation, in the situation of, he says, lo nichale de tevid mitzvah mai. What if he says, I don't want to do the mitzvah? So if it's a mitzvah, so then what if he says, I don't want to do it? It's only when it comes to mitzvah shlois saseh, says Rashi, regarding getting malchus. When it says go build a sukkah and he doesn't do it, a lulav, he doesn't get a lulav and esrog, because we continue to pay Bam with Beis, makinoi so ad shetetzi nafshay. When it comes to a mitzvah saseh, we're going to continue hitting him literally until he dies. Says Rashi, Kodem she'avar al aseh, v'yesh biyado l'kayim. Since he has the ability to mekayim it, so therefore we tell him he has to do it. So the fact that he says ol nichali delevin mitzvah, this is a mitzvah saseh of hin tzedek of shehi hein shulchat tzedek v'lav shulchat tzedek. So therefore he doesn't have the ability to just refuse it. He has an obligation to actually follow through on that. Okay. Weiter. Bomine Rami Barchama Merav Chisda. Harze Gitech. If a person says, here's your get. V'lotis Garshi Boy El Achashashim Yom. However, I'm not going to be divorced from you until after 30 days. V'holcha. And she goes, V'heni Chasai B'tzidir Shus Rabim. And he puts the get on the Tzidir Shus Rabim, which the question is the status of this location. Mahu. So what's the din? Is it a good divorce? And on this, Taisus already says, Taima, we already saw in the third parak, Amadul Indian Mikna Kani, but Siddur Shus Rabim, that you can be kind of there. Okay. And Taisus, so Amalei Enimigrashas. It's not a divorce. Rav Shmuel. The Rav Shmuel, the Ritavayu, Push Sibur Mumenachem Rishus Rabim. It has to be that it's literally tied up in your by the Rishus Rabim. Says Rashi, Gabi Masnisin, Diktani, Hakoidim Zacha. Whoever comes first is Zoicha to it. Alma Rishus Rabim will Kanile Labal Midi. There's no kinyan in Rishus Rabim, El Im Kain Magbiyoi, unless it was lifted up. Hilkach, Ach Shoishim, after 30 days, Laber Shusahu, they will have a Gerish and Chayil. It's not considered a good divorce. The Siddur Shus Rabim, Krishus Rabim Dam. According to this opinion, Siddur Shus Rabim is the same din of Shus Rabim, and therefore the din is, if you put it there, it's not a good Gerushin. So Gemara says, Adarabba, Migareshes, they should be divorced if it was put in the Siddur Shus Rabim. Rav Nachman, Rav Boravua, Harmel Chavero. If a person says to his friend, Mashach Parazu, do Mashiach on this cow, however, lo take Kanuyilcha Adi Achashoshim Yoim. So as we saw this before, that you shouldn't be kind until after 30 days. So the din is Kana. Even if it's in the swamp, even if it's, again, not in his property. So, my love, Hainu Agam, Hainu Tzidr Shus Rabim. It's like the same idea. So if it works at the Agam, it should work at Tzidr Shus Rabim. Lo. Agam L'chud and Tzidr Shus Rabim L'chud. They're two separate dinim. When it comes to Agam, it works. By Tzidr Shus Rabim, not. Ikdiyam Omerle Megareshes, Rav Nachman, Tzidr Shus Rabim, Ke Agam Dami. Actually, it is like an Agam. Adra and Megreshes. Rav Shmuel, Mile of Hainu Shus Rabim, Hainu Tzidr Shus Rabim. Lo, Shus Rabim L'chud, Tzidr Shus Rabim L'chud. Okay. Now the Gemara also over there mentioned it's only when it's biyad, has to be when it's biyadai. That was one of the criteria. And also you have to say achshav. Okay. Next Mishnah. Hamoishiv es ishto chenvius. Let's say you appointed your wife as the storekeeper, says Rashi, limchar yeno perosa b'chnus, to sell fruits and wines in the store. Oshemina apitropia. You appointed her as an apotropis. Again, she's involved in all of the business dealings of your store. Harizeh mashpia kolzman shirtze. The din is you can require her to make a shvua anytime you want. It says Rashi shel ikva biyad klum. That basically that she didn't make any mistakes, that everything is legit. So again, she has to make a shvua that she is faithful and didn't take anything. Even on the spindle and on the dough, which means regarding all of her chores, you can always make her make a shvua any moment, any time. She has to constantly prove herself. Gemara. We know there's an element, as we see from the dinim of a saita, of gilgul shvua. The question is is this me'ikra din, this requirement of a shvuah, that you could make her make a shvuah? Is it only when she already has to make a shvuah? So the din is that we're going to say that she can make, you make a gilgal shvuah in that case. So Tashma, Amar Rabbi Eliezer, Ein Adam Dar Im Nachash Bekfifa. He holds that no, you can't just allow a woman to make a shvuah anytime, because how could she live in such a situation that she's constantly being required to make a shvuah? Which means that her husband never trusts her. To live in such a relationship where your husband is constantly second-guessing you, that's like a stake wrapping around you. Now, I can understand if this is talking about at any given moment she can make a shvuah, she has to make a shvuah, so he disagrees. What's the difference? Because if she has to make a shvuah, she doesn't always have to make a shvuah. So the few times she ever has to make a shvuah, so maybe alidei gilgal, you can also require it. That's not really living as with a nachash bekfifa. Mercy is not necessarily. The Amrle, she could say kivan dedaikis basroi kulihai. Since you're so precise and particular, umatzina the order bahadach. I don't want to live with you. It's too much. If you don't trust the person that you're with, then that person doesn't want to live with you. Toshma, harshul patras ishtom in a neder. As we're going to see, a person says, I'm not going to pater my wife from a neder and a shvuah, v'oshiva chenvaniyos, and you appoint her as a storekeeper, or shemina pitrapia, harizum eshpia kol zman shirtze. You can make her make a shvuah whenever. Lo ashiva chenvaniyos. If let's say you did not appoint her as a storekeeper, or v'lomina pitrapia, enu yochel ashbia, then you cannot just ask your wife, just stam anytime. It's one thing if she's running a business in which there's a lot of money coming in, coming out. Okay, that's one thing. But if she doesn't do that, then you don't have the right to have her make a shvuah. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, no. Alpha be shaloh shiva chenvias lo minat bitrapia harizum mashbia kol zman shirtze. Even if she was not appointed, so nonetheless, you can make her make a shvuah anytime. She'ein l'cha isha shel nasas apitrapia sha'achas b'chai bala al pilchavel isasa. Because there's no such a thing that a woman is not going to have some responsibility over the things of the house. So therefore, all the situations you can always require to make a shvuah, because she's always going to be in the status of an apitropos. So malo ein adam dar im nachash bekfifa shma mina lechatchila shma mina. So we see again, it must be that this whole machlokas is in a situation where you're lechatchila requiring it. However, not regarding a gilgal shvuah. Question 8. B'may pligi rabban Rabbi Eliezer ima shpia adam es ishto al pilcha ve'al isasa. So what's the basis of this machlokas? So according to Rabbi Eliezer, ein l'cha isha shel nasas abitrapa shoachas b'chai bala. There's always going to be, your wife is going to at least have some responsibility once, and therefore you can make her make a shvuah. And the Rabbanan say, in adam dar im nachash bekfifa. Okay. Let's look at question TA10. Ha'omel chavero moshach parazu v'tikno chalach ramid yoim kan v'afil omedes ba'agam ma din bo'omedes rishus harabim o b'sidi rishus harabim. So, when it comes to rishus harabim, there's nothing to talk about. Rishus harabim, it's definitely not you cannot be koina. However, when it comes to sidi rishus harabim, there's two lashonos in our Gemara whether or not it works. So let's just find this over here. So the question is that also in this Rishus Harabim? Is it the same as the Rishus Harabim or not the same? Okay. Fine. Seder Rishus Harabim Ka'agam Dami. So it's a machlokus whether Rishus Harabim has the same status. Seder Rishus Harabim has the same status as the Agam. That is kaina. Okay. There's no more questions for TA. Let's do TB11. Mi sheish olav ksuvas isha ubalchoi v'karka achas. There's only land. Sheinu maspika l'shnehem. There's not enough for both of them. So mi kaidim. So the answer you would think should be to the balchoi, right? As we said before. This is what he says. TB11. Kol sheshtarav mukdam kaidim ligvais. Whichever one is first in date is when you collect. However, shneim b'yom echad bal chayv kaidim. However, as we said, that if let's say there's only one star or it's the same date, so in that situation the din is bal chayv yavinin lei and leisha lo yavinin lei. That's TB11. See if Rashi picks up on this too. In ba'el kadei echad mehem this is what Rashi says over here. V'davka sheshtaros nichtavu b'yoim echad, aval im kadma zman haksuva hi goiva. So again, it's only if it's the same day. But if they're different days, it's a little bit of a hard question. But that's an important Rashi. If it's on different days, we go after whichever one was written first. Otherwise, it's given to the Baal Chayv. Okay, Adkan.